I know many of you are here as a result of our initial agenda that had the mayor on the agenda. Unfortunately, I've been notified recently, very recently, that he will not be here.
Of course.
But I do have a letter from his office that I need to read to commission members. Dear members of the Denver Homeless Commission, I want to take a moment to thank each of every one of you for your commitments to addressing the complex issues associated with homelessness in Denver. Your efforts have played a key role in crafting important policies, programs, and projects that have truly made a difference in people's lives. As we move forward, your involvement will be even more crucial. Denver's Road Home has made much progress over the past 10 years, but the nature of homelessness in Denver and across our country has changed, and we have much work ahead of us. While I had hoped to attend today's commission meeting, my presence may in turn become disruptive and counterproductive to your agenda. To facilitate a more productive dialogue, my office will be extending an invitation to you for a candid discussion about the challenges we face and what strategies will be necessary in the years ahead to overcome them. By working together, I'm confident we can implement successful solutions we can all be proud of. On behalf of a grateful city, thank you again for your hard work and to support some of the most vulnerable in our community. Respectfully, Mayor Mike Hancock. Now, I know we have members of several organizations here that particularly wanted to discuss, and we will discuss, and also to around the street encampment actions that the city has taken over the last couple of weeks. But before we get into that part of it, I'd like to invite Billy Bramhall. She indicates that she has a statement from your group, and I would like to recognize that at this time since the mayor's presence is not here.
Thank you very much. Is there a mic down here? Or can you all hear me?
No, we'll get one too.
This was a brief statement that Denver Homeless Out Loud wrote for the mayor and for the Homeless Commission, which we have great respect for. It's very brief. We want to make the Mayor's Homeless Commission aware of what has been going on about the suites. Several weeks ago, Therese Howard, Billy Bramhall, and Ray Lyell from Denver Homeless Out Loud met with someone from the mayor's office and showed him the 100 or so homeless people camping on the sidewalks all day in the vicinity of the Rescue Mission and Samaritan House. We suggested a survey of them to find out what they need to move to a safer location. We were told the mayor's office did not want to raise hopes. But they will get back to us. We pointed out that choosing to camp on the sidewalk all day is not helpful to them or to Denver. And to make that choice, they must be pretty desperate for help. Since then, we have been emailing the mayor's office regularly with suggestions and requests to meet. For example, having the various outreach workers interview all of them to find out what they need and help them to better solutions for themselves and for the city. Salt Lake City did this for their homeless people with great success, to the point that their mayor actually got to know and care about some of the cases. The Denver mayor's office informed us that they would meet on this, but they have not initiated a meeting. Instead, they initiated the sweep and used the police, not outreach workers, criminalizing the homeless. Besides talking to us, they received pleas for a different approach from Tom Lures at St. Francis Center and John Parvinsky of the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. Instead, these inhumane sweeps continue, which solve no problems. The city also did not consult with this commission, the mayor's own commission on homelessness. In to Denver's approach of involving those affected in decision making. In this case, including not just the homeless people, the ballpark, the Curtis Park neighborhood, whose working people have been impacted by this as they walk to work and errands. We again urge that you, now I'm talking to the mayor, and the commission, to the extent that you have any influence, take a humane approach to Denver's homeless population instead of treating them as criminals. We urge that the outreach workers interview these homeless families to determine how they became homeless, what would help solve those specific issues, and work with them to helpful solutions, or at least a better temporary situation. Move on is not a solution and helps no one. Everyone will not be cooperative, but many will. And as Salt Lake City found out, over time, this approach paid off. Thank you very much.
I'd like to address a couple of your points directly, since our office and Denver Human Services have been involved with the encampment around the Samaritan House and the new Lawrence Street Community Center since September. Since September, every week, we've had at least 3 outreach visits to that area. We have identified individuals and the needs that they have. We have housed several, I don't have numbers in front of me, but at least a dozen individuals were housed directly from the street. Countless people were connected with human services, got enrolled into the Affordable Care Act conditions, and were directed to services that were beneficial to them moving forward. And we have done that every week since the first week of September. In the last 6 weeks, we have increased the power washing of the sidewalks and the like from 3 days a week to 5 days a week. So we have been working strenuously to improve and to get people to move toward services. And for anyone who believes that people living on the street in that situation around those encampments is acceptable, and that's the message that we get, is that it's better to leave them alone than it is to try to direct services and outreach workers to them. And so that difference of opinion we'll accept, but that's what it is. As a city, we have determined 2 years ago that our efforts were going to be around moving people toward services. Now, some may agree, some may disagree, but the one thing that's not acceptable for a city is to allow those encampments, which continue to grow. Quite frankly, the growth of those encampments were probably a direct result of the outreach efforts and having as many folks down there. Because what happened was that the word then became, if you want your issues directly addressed, then you need to come down here. And so that's what we began to face. And it got to the point, quite frankly, with it really was a public safety and health issue that needed to be addressed. And we understood that it would be controversial, which is why we worked 4 months plus to put the protocols in place to make it that way. The characterization of it as inhumane, we will definitely disagree with. We mobilized outreach workers in the days prior to. We do not have our outreach workers working in conjunction with police. That puts them in a difficult situation in trying to build rapport with the individuals that they come in contact with on a daily basis. And for them to come in a situation where police are involved, it just compromises their position to do their outreach work on the street. The sanitation workers and the contractors meticulously took those belongings, bagged them, and identified them as much as possible with individuals on the street. So this idea that we just swept people away is an incorrect. I'll just be direct at that. It's an incorrect characterization of what happened there. Now, we understand that housing is the ultimate solution as a city. We have several initiatives ongoing now that hopefully by the end of 2016, definitely moving into 2017, with these pumps primed, that we'll begin to see the kind of facilities that we need to address this issue. But we will not just sit by and allow encampments to grow all over the city. It's not sustainable and it's not acceptable. So with that, we can talk further about the encampment issues around it, but as a city, we will continue to minimize those camps around the city. Our shelter system, although not ideal, we know that we don't have enough beds for everybody if they came in on any given night, but we are running about 80 to 82% capacity right now. So there are spaces. Understand that that does not work for everybody. There are men and women. Women are running at approximately 65% capacity. So we know that we can put people in a safer place. Again, like I said, they're not ideal. We are working to upgrade the environments of shelters. It's taken time, but we'll get there. That is our target. So I will open it up for any type of discussion that we would like to have. Terrell?
I thought Billy actually raised a point I thought that was interesting for this group, and it isn't the first time over the years that this kind of question has come up, that not that this large a group can really convene to solve an immediate type issue, but it does bring me to wonder what other solutions besides sort of this mass sweeping were considered. I know there's been outreach, but we also know the folks that we're outreaching to are the most resistant to services. Were there other solutions that were examined? Were there other service providers really brought in to help brainstorm that solution? Or was it just kind of a go right to that?
Well, the bottom line was that the encampments had to be moved. If, as far as discussion, we had a wide range of city agencies, I will say. We had some providers at the table assisting us with those thoughts, mainly the ones who were more directly impacted, right in the Lawrence Street, Park Avenue West area. Any other solution? I'd be very interested to hear other solutions. I mean, the bottom line is the folks had to be moved in those situations that had to be remedied.
Just a follow-up. So do we have a sense of where folks have gone? Because we know we haven't forced them into the lack of shelter space or appropriate shelter space, depending on who we're talking with. My sense is when the camping ban was first implemented, that folks are dispersing and becoming, once again, kind of harder to find. Same issue, just not visible. Do we have a sense of where folks have gone? Are the outreach workers reporting back on that?
I don't have that data right in front of me, but clearly they've dispersed in different areas. And we have seen an increase in our shelter numbers as well. So some of them clearly have decided to access shelters as well. But as far as to be able to tell you exactly where that dispersal is, I can't tell you.
Debbie, speak into the mic.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My question is whether or not reunification dollars are being expended to assist individuals in connecting them back with their families from other communities, wherever they may happen to be from. I know when we started the Homeless Commission, that was one of the things that we had some, I believe they were emergency solutions grant dollars that were set aside to assist with that. And the caveat was we had to make sure there was somebody on the other end to, to receive and welcome that family member that we were, providing that transportation assistance to. So can you speak to that?
The Family Integration Program is still an active program, and we do use those same criteria. We need to be able to make contact with an individual on the other end of where they want to go. Identify either as providing a place, a shelter for them, and or an opportunity for employment as well. So we still use that program, and we have had good success with that program.
So of the people who were moved along, do we know if any of them were assisted with this program?
I only know of two in the very beginning of this operation. We started outreach in early September, and I don't know of any further unification efforts.
So, Benny, I want to ask another question about IDs. I know this is a big deal. Can you all hear me? If anybody's ID was in their personal belongings that got moved, as you know, shelters require they have to have an ID to get access to any other services and programs. They need their IDs, and once that is lost or missing, to get that replaced is a harrowing experience. And so, can you just speak to that issue as well?
That was a major point of emphasis, particularly with both the public works workers and the other individuals involved in identifying the items for baggage to be taken to the 12th and Glenarm location. So we don't know if any were in there, but I know backpacks particularly were handled with care to make sure that they could be identifiable. And I will say that in the 3 weeks since the encumbrances were removed, we've had 2 individuals show up at the Glenarm location to reclaim any goods. So that would tell me one of 2 things. There was not anything of value in terms of documentation, identification cards, birth certificates, those things, or the individual decided that those items were not something they wanted to recover. Those are only 2 circumstances. Councilman Brooks, Tom, and Leslie.
I just wanted the providers to speak to the ID issue because I don't think that you need ID.
I can add a point of clarification. Shelters aren't going to require IDs to get in, but motel vouchers might when it's not operating in cold weather conditions. And also the point, bags and such weren't rifled through when they were moved to storage. So if someone had an ID in a bag and it's not immediately visible, it's in that backpack still in the bag in storage. So so we encourage people to keep the items on person, such as IDs, small electronics, and such, in both the sign postings and the flyers. But if they have that stuff in the bag, we didn't go through and extract that to get that back. It was Tom, right?
I'm really disappointed that the mayor's not here today, and I was hoping we would have a civil conversation about this in his presence, so that's disappointing to me. I guess a couple other things. One is, if we had all this time to prepare for these, for the dispersal of people, it would have been a good topic for us to have as a commission, I think. maybe to inform the situation, but certainly to make more aware, all of us, so that we weren't reading about it in the paper or just getting alerts that it was going to happen. I know the politics of it, but I guess I feel like we could have informed the conversation and maybe offered other solutions. And then just a side comment, that people aren't picking up their things, to me, it makes perfect sense, because what happens is people have no way of transporting their many things that they've gathered over time. And I think we maybe set people up to think that this was going to be okay for a while, because it was okay for 6 months, and so they got more items because they were seeing this as an option. And then, it's no longer an option, so people aren't going to be really able to haul all that stuff around. Hopefully they got their IDs, but, people, we will help people get their IDs if they don't have them. They need to do that.
First of all, I just want to echo what Tom said. I with you on all points. I'm actually looking for a piece of information. I had a volunteer say that she was in the area, and she saw belongings being loaded into trash bins and taken away. Can you help me out with accuracy in terms of, I had no response. Were things taken away? She said everything's going into the trash and into trash bins. Can you help me out with what's the response to that?
So I think that was a little bit of visual noise. So the receptacles that they did use to sort people's belongings and then move them to the storage facilities were those same, I think they were Denver compost, clean, not filled with compost, but the plastic bins that you said recycling, but they were green. So they looked like trash receptacles. But everything that was put into one of those was taken to the storage location.
We'll take questions potentially from the audience when the commission is through.
I have a comment.
You have no time for comment. Please sit down.
We have video footage proving that there was a dumpster there, a dump truck, where they're throwing stuff into it.
Also,
some things
talk to us. I'm homeless. Talk to me. Talk to me. What we need out there is what we need out there. We need housing. We need housing built for low-income people. It's a shame that we got people on SSI that cannot afford a place to live. Everyone out there wants a home. We are homeless, and we are tired of being asked to move. I don't move personally because, first of all, they're not going to give you the camping van ticket. So why should I move along? Move along where? I'm staying right there at 26 and Lawrence in Arapahoe, and that's where I would be. So you might as well go ahead. Because I'm like this. I would die for something. I would not live for nothing. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah, actually, to that point, one of the questions that I asked was pretty, it's exactly where Terrell was going on what has happened to these individuals. Now, we know, because a lot of these folks are transient, it's tough to see all of these folks, but I got a response from you around, Chris, around some of these folks were put on housing lists. Some folks got housing. So can we talk a little bit about that? And can we talk to some of the providers who are in this room right now to see if some of those folks are, using some of the beds and some of the shelters as well?
Sure. I think the response that I cited in the months leading up to, I think you gave a number at 22 sticks out in my mind of individuals housed directly from that area in our outreach on the front end of that. out of over a couple months of how many people come through. It could be 100 at any given time, but that doesn't mean that there's only 100 people. After that, the projection for the next month is that the outreach team alone will be able to house 7 people that they've identified from that area. So that's a projection. That's not people who have gotten housing yet, but I asked them, with the momentum of your case planning and what resources you're having to work with and the people that you're working with now, what's your projection? They said 7 in a month.
Yeah, exactly.
Terrell and then Don.
To answer Councilman Brooks' question about additional access and usage of shelters, we'd happily take more people at Dolores if we possibly could. We've been full to the gills since the day I started almost 9 years ago, winter, summer, spring, or fall. So we have 60 unaccompanied women and transgender folks in there every single night. We know we have a handful of new guests to us every week, but that's because other folks have fallen out or weren't able to get in sort of the random first come, first served phone calls of the day. So I imagine some may have been going out to the overflow shelter. I don't know about Samaritan House or Theodora, but we can't take any more. We know there's more to be taken, but we can't. We're full.
I'm deeply disturbed by a lot of the conversation this afternoon. First of all, I agree with Tom. This was in the offing for a long time. And why we didn't have more conversation as a commission about this, I don't know. But it disturbs me that somehow this group is not being asked for its advice and counsel. And that really distresses me. I was really disturbed and saddened to see on television last week the sweeps. And I kept saying to myself, so where are these folks supposed to go? And I very much appreciate all of the efforts of Denver's Road Home and the staff to reach out to folks. But in spite of all of these good efforts, there are still numbers of people who are being moved along. And I guess my question is, what efforts are we making as a commission, as a city, to figure out how to best serve those people? And I guess I'd like more of a response about where's all this going?
I just have a quick comment in response to where are people going. I can tell you that there are currently about anywhere between 3 and a dozen men in the alley behind the Gathering House now that weren't there a few months ago. Women are about the same number of people that are coming, but a number of people have moved into our alley.
I was going to respond also to Councilman Brooks' question about service providers and Volunteers of America, who operate 2 programs we call Safe Havens, specifically for single women with no length of stay. And at the time that the sweeps occurred, we didn't have openings in either of those programs. We may have been able, again, had we been able to maybe talk about this in advance, there may have been some work we could have done preliminarily to assist. But we didn't know until the Friday before that the sweeps were going to occur the following Monday. In our housing, affordable housing, which we have mostly for seniors, but all over the city, the wait list is so long. And many homeless people are on those wait lists. And just recently, HUD is allowing us to move to provide a preference to homeless individuals. But whether we do that or we don't do that, which we will do, the wait list is very, very long for the next available housing, affordable and subsidized housing unit.
I'll just say, in response to an earlier question, we did have a few people, two at least, that were our outreach team did family reunification with, and also several people, as was said before, that I know two women that were regulars at St. Francis Center that just got housed last week. And I would just say part of what has happened is there's been a lot of collaboration with providers and police and other people. So there's been some good stuff. One of the challenges, though, is now that people are scattered, it makes it more challenging for our outreach workers to connect with them. And although I think for the most part, folks who are out on the street see the outreach workers as advocates for them, they do feel like they have to dig deeper in. And so it's harder to find them, and that can lead sometimes to challenging or unhealthy situations for people. So I guess part of my point is let's at least give people places where they can feel like they can consistently be, and those might not be the places they were last a couple of weeks ago, but it really helps in terms of connecting with them, just for our outreach workers and for them to know that there's some place consistent.
Yes, because this commission is aware that Denver has become the most desirable city to live. Do you know why? It's not because of the mayor, because the mayor is hiding right now. That's my perception. I'm a honorably discharged veteran, and I came 3 years ago. I was homeless. I was living in my car. Now I got one of these badges. This badge got me out of homeless. Why does the Marijuana Enforcement Division don't lower their criteria and lower the cost of a support badge? That's my question. Why?
I'm sorry.
Marijuana Enforcement Division. Marijuana Enforcement Division. Support badge. Occupational badge. It costs $150 to get a badge. Do you think a homeless person is able to afford $150 to get one of these?
I'm not familiar with the marijuana criteria, so I'm sorry. I can't answer that.
And why is that? If Denver has become the most desirable city, it's because of the industry. Why is this all these people making a profit and are being greedy and are not sharing and building affordable housing and giving employment to the homeless community? I was homeless, and I'm here to talk in favor of the homeless. My name is Jose Santiago. I'm a honorably discharged veteran. I was ready to serve this country. And I got honorably discharged because I tested positive to THC. I came here looking for a stable life, looking for stability, looking for a life, normal, be part of society, right? That's what we all want. Why are we being denied? Why there's other people being denied, not me? I'm the case that I came out of there, right? I got lucky enough. Now I want to bring more people. Why don't you have people like me that can guide them? Why they don't lower the cost? That's my point. They should lower the cost of the badge, and they should lower their criteria, because anybody that is homeless out there and get arrested, they get a petty offense for surviving, plain surviving, the right to rest. They need to rest. Why they're not getting a chance? That's my question to you.
Thank you. I think he's referring to the employment card to work in the marijuana.
That's what I have right here.
Clarification.
Let me, I got a solution.
They
asked for a solution.
Many of those are state regulations, and I just am not able to address that. That is not my area of expertise. So that's one of the employment opportunities, but the criteria has been set at the state level, and I can't address that.
Denver is the most desirable city. It is not because of our mayor.
But what I can address the question is around affordable housing. And as we continue forward, I wish I had brought my list of affordable housing opportunities that are currently being developed, that are in the pipeline and that are at different stages of coming online. The North Colorado Station, the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, came online last month. The same day that the sweep started, there were 24 veterans that were housed in that unit that day. The Ruby Hill project is scheduled to open in May. Deborah, you can roll these off a whole lot better than I can, just to give an idea of what that is. And then in addition to that, a lot of people to do that in a minute, is that with the freeing of the $1 million, there's a $15 to $18 million fund that will be annually applied around the building of affordable housing. And so this administration has the resources in place, and we are hopeful that toward the end of 16 into 17, we'll begin to see these projects coming out of the ground. But long term, on the horizon, it looks good. But as we work through the next 12 to 18 months to get to that point, it will be difficult. The city is currently a lot of questions around shelter operations, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But Deb, give us a bit of a rundown of the projects that are currently.
Well, there are a number of affordable housing projects that are under construction or getting very close to starting construction. You know, when our recession happened back in 07, 08, 09, I mean, it really did cause a huge delay, really, in the whole industry. Capital markets collapsed, banks weren't lending, so it takes quite a while for the pipeline to get started again. And Denver has lots of stuff going on, as Bennie indicated. The Coalition's North Colorado Station is online. Denver Housing Authority project-based 26 VASH vouchers there. It's a total of 104 units. They're all being directed towards families that have been previously homeless. There's 19 units for people that are coming out of the program down in Fort Lyons. So it'll be a wonderful property there. Across the street, Park Hill Station is another property that's being built. Denver Housing Authority is project-based 33 vouchers there. Stage 1 is already completed. There's 20 vouchers that are in place there. It's a total of 156 units. They're all affordable. They're all there for people that are low income. There is Ruby Hills. It's 114 units. Denver Housing Authority has put in 28 VASH there, so 28 chronically homeless veterans will be moving into there. We also have project-based 57 units there. I'm working with the Birdwin Management Company to put folks from our local preference program there. All of those agencies are partners with Denver's Road Home. They will all serve families that have been homeless or at risk of homelessness, so that should be ready for move-in on May 1st. We also are working with the 2 properties that are part of the city's social impact bonds. That again is the Coalition's Downtown Lofts, which is at 2075 Broadway. Also Sanderson Apartments, which is at 1601 South Federal, which is MHCD. That'll have 60 units. The Coalition's Downtown Lofts will have 100 units. That both of those buildings will be completely project-based. We're splitting those 50-50 with Division of Housing. So both of those buildings will serve many of our most chronically homeless individuals from the Social Impact Bond Program. We also are working with St. Francis with their project, St. Francis at Cathedral Square, which will be 50 units. And again, that's a 50-50 split between Denver Housing Authority and Division of Housing. So all 3 of those buildings will be completely project-based, meaning that every unit will have a rent subsidy attached to it. And that's just beginning. We also have made some conditional awards to a number of other projects that have submitted their applications to the first round with CHAPA. Terrell's is involved in one of those. So there's a lot of affordable housing projects out there in Denver specifically, and really throughout the metro area. The first round in Chapel was extraordinarily competitive. I think they had over 20 applications throughout the metro area, really outside of Denver. So lots and lots of developments are being built right now to serve not only agencies that do work with homeless, but families that really are very, very low income. So pipeline's full. There's lots of good stuff coming down in the next couple of years, and I don't see it slowing down anytime. Thank you.
Benny, just a point of process. We missed introductions, so I got a request if you're speaking to share your name and if you're representing an agency, who you're representing.
My name is Debbie Ortega with the Denver City Council.
Renee Cruz with Denver's Road Home.
Carissa Johnson, Denver's Road Home.
Nathan Woodless Stanley, ACLU of Colorado.
Elise Montgomery, Warren Village.
Gina Herder, Office of Behavioral Health Strategies.
Kim Easton, Urban Peak.
Tom Lewis, St. Francis Center.
I'm Lindy Sinton, Volunteers of America.
Terrell Curtis, the Dolores Project.
Don Burns with the Burns Institute on Poverty and Homelessness.
Cheryl Hagstrom, Community First Foundation.
Kathy Alderman, Colorado Coalition for the Homeless.
Tammy Valafato, Colorado Coalition for the Homeless.
Randall Lowe.
Thomas Brooks, District 9 City Council.
Roger Armstrong, Capitol Hill United Neighborhoods.
Josh Garland, Denver's Road Home.
Elaine Gallagher, member of the commission and volunteer.
Robin Kniech, Denver City Council, the other at-large seat.
Victoria McVicker with Safe House Denver.
Leslie Foster, The Gathering Place.
Doug Hawk, Cano Oil and Gas.
Andrew Feinstein, River North Art District. Brad Miley, Denver Rescue Mission.
Dakshan Ansari, the Denver Office of Behavioral Health Strategies.
John Looper, Denver's Road Home.
Deb Gray, Denver Housing Authority, and Denver's Road Home.
Chris Conner, Denver's Road Home.
It's not coming.
Marina Johnson, Denver's Road Home.
I made our presentation.
Hello guys, my name is Mike Sidolsky. I work for an architectural firm in town, and our firm was pretty distressed, as last week, and we met and had a pretty substantive meeting, and we were just coming together to see what solutions we could start to propose. And if you look around the United States, there are a lot of solutions that we really could learn from, and I think a large part of it just stems from how we in Denver define homes. There are all these really awesome affordable housing complexes are going to be really beneficial to the community, but I think we wanted to have a larger discussion, and we didn't know who to reach out to as to what Denver defines a home as and how it's currently limiting certain efforts for the homeless. If you look at certain Northwestern communities, there's micro-housing, there's just formal encampments where individuals who have nothing and just, that one day just ended up being homeless can pitch a tent, and then they have shared amenities. And these are just legal places where they're able to have a place to store their belongings during the day. And, we came up with all of these solutions, but, we came across things like, man, it's illegal in Denver to have a tiny home, or it's illegal in Denver to have a square footage like this much less. And so we were just curious as to what discussions there are currently by the commission to redefine what it means to be a home in the city of Denver.
As a commission, we haven't really discussed that in depth, but I do know that because of the efforts of those who are advocating for tiny houses, that community planning and development, environmental health, and building and codes are having discussions now around, I guess it could be framed around the way you made your statement of what is necessary to have a home. And so, and that was the genesis of that was really from the advocates for tiny houses. We met with community planning and development and those folks, and that is being reviewed in those departments as to what is naturally needed for home development, and what is statute, what is prerogative, what is policy. And so we're hopeful to get a response to some of that input over the next several months. But it is, at least in that regard, being looked at, because even at the Home and Garden Show, 2 years ago they had one tiny house. This year, I think they had 16 models out there. Probably not in the range of affordability that we would think about, around $45,000. At least it is a recognition, maybe, that that's an alternative living condition that is going away.
Yeah, can I just respond? First of all, what's your name? What's your last name? Okay, so y'all need to hook up, number one. Number two, a small contingent of Homeless Out Loud, we've been meeting together, kind of talking about this, and they gave me a presentation that showed me how Seattle municipality, how Portland's municipality, how Austin's municipality has implemented this. I got a chance to sit down with Brad Buchanan, just as Bennie was saying, and actually there's not, we as a city do not limit it. There's some issues with environmental health that we're going to address here in April and May, as soon as Brad gets before the Environmental Health Board to make sure that it's not an issue. There's some technical issues around plumbing and things like that that we can have a conversation around. But we are actually looking at a trial run right now. And so we had a swath of, got all the properties in Denver that the city owns and starting to look at, is there an opportunity? So we don't have an architect in the group, I don't think, licensed architect. Okay.
We do.
Oh, we do.
Not here today, but
okay.
We do.
But love for you to be a part. There's all these people saying how sympathetic they are, and not a lot of folks coming to the table and saying this is what we want to offer. And so I think you should hook up and we'll meet.
I know I don't want it, but first of all, I'd like to call you out, Brad, to give a report. When all the other providers did, there was nothing said from the three major shelters that exist for overnight, and that has to do, of course, with the Salvation Army, the Denver Rescue Mission, and Samaritan House. Do you know anything about what's happened subsequently to that? And then I have something else that I need to deal with after he finishes talking.
Brad, I can piggyback if you just want to speak for the Rescue Mission.
Okay, why don't I speak for what I know about? Since November 23rd, when the Lawrence, I think this may be of interest to you, since the Lawrence Street Community Center opens on November 23rd, we have averaged about 900 people coming into the Lawrence Street Community Center. We're feeding on average 1,500 meals. We've had some meals recently with cold weather of nearly 2,200 meals. We are also running, in addition to the 315 bed facility we run at Lawrence Street, we're also running the 325 plus shelter for men. We were running somewhere around 80%, I would say roughly, in those two facilities. That emergency shelter, you have to be bussed out to Peoria and you're bussed back the next day. We've had an uptick in that since the sweep has happened. We've also definitely had an uptick in our courtyard. I was down there today, and in terms of, it's a nice day, a lot of folks in our courtyard. We've had to limit the amount of things you can bring into your courtyard. So if it takes you 6 trips to come in and bring your gear, that's not going to work for us because there's just too many people inside there. So in terms of the number of people that we've been seeing, we've been seeing a lot of people. And so, we welcome, we've had outreach workers coming in there as well. We continue to welcome that from other service providers and other folks trying to get connected to people. Tom, I don't know where you guys run 800-900 people, I think, a day, don't you, roughly? And so, I mean, we're seeing similar kind of things. So this is a place as well where people can be connected to service. Randall, I hope that was helpful in regard to Denver Rescue.
Thanks, Randall. I did want to mention, I'll speak a little bit for Catholic Charities since they're not here, because I hear Dolores Project and DOA saying, we'd like to take more, but we're full, and I don't want that message to be that women's options are full across the board. We've increased women's shelter amply in the last 3-4 years, much to the thanks of DOA, much now to the thanks of Catholic Charities, who's running it. Catholic Charities runs 2 locations that they're sheltering women at on a night-to-night basis. That's the Peoria location, co-located with Brad Miley's program for men out there, as well as the Samaritan House, which is immediately adjacent to Lawrence Street, where much of the encampments were. Both of those are running in the last week's average at 75% capacity. So if I line up 4 beds, one of those is empty each night of this last week, at least, which is our prime time of the month. So there is space for women to arrive too. The pipeline for Catholic Charities 120-day shelter program, which isn't a night-to-night program, is run purely out of the service they're doing at the Holy Rosary at Samaritan House downtown and Peoria. All those referrals come through that initial women's shelter program. So it's an important fulcrum, and please fill it. If there's women out remaining on the streets, I want those 4 beds filled. For Salvation Army, we've been able to decompress the Crossroads location, much due to cooperation with Rescue Mission and Josh Capelt and Brad. So there's space there. Rescue Mission is seeing a little bit of uptake, and that might be because of that coordination, might not be because of the sweeps. So I want to point that out, but there is room available at Crossroads as well for men, not women. About 1/3 of the beds being occupied at Crossroads or of the mats being occupied at Crossroads are sober options for people who don't want to be in a substance use environment. They're in a different area of Crossroads, and about 1 in 3 individuals who takes a mat is requesting that sober space.
So one of the groups that's not present here is, of course, police. It'd be really great to hear what their perspective is as well. There are a lot of people that are missing from the table. My notes indicate both who's here and who's not here. And I think it's really important for us to understand that. And there are things being done, worked on, that I'm personally involved with, and other people on city council that I think have merit in terms of lasting solutions, which is one of our mission's ideas. And that is the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless that I've served on for almost 20 years. Now, there are a couple things that I think are mistakes. What Mr. Millner said, to me, rings true. And that is that people need options. And they need to go on with their lives. And I've fallen down on my face many times. I suffer right this second from that. But that does not diminish nor dilute my voice. I don't need this thing, because my voice comes from my heart. And the problem is, we don't talk to each other. This man right here is my boss. I work as a groundskeeper for Capitol Hill United Neighborhood, and I'm vitally involved in neighborhood groups as well. And I don't hear the neighborhoods either in this conversation. And the fact of the matter is, we all, and I mean that sincerely and testify to that effect before the state legislature, need to recognize the human rights of all people, not just people who don't have a place to live. And it is important for us to listen to each other and shut up and not think you have the answer. After all this time, the thing I tell kids when I talk to them and my friends when I'm in desperate situation is, The more I'm involved in this, the more complex, and the more I know I don't. And so that's what I want to leave you with. This is a nitty-gritty issue at the bedrock of American society. And if this is the only place that has this problem, you're all out to lunch. This is all over. I come from Philly. My voice comes from Philly. Some people think I yell, but that's not the case. I am speaking from my heart, so that's why my voice is like a preacher.
Love your passion.
I know you do, but that's irrelevant to why I'm doing it. I'm doing this because I know, having experienced homelessness, excuse my language, that it's bullshit. It should never have existed. Ever. And that's the only reason I serve on this commission, is because it's got to end. And so we have to put our heads together. The architect, Albus and I are meeting tomorrow. We have to begin to break it down, as Vincent Harding says, as brothers and sisters. There are no enemies. There are no opposition. We're all here together. Thank you for indulging my craziness.
Back to the topic of or it's all on the topic of the suites, but I felt like something needs to be clarified regarding the situation going on right now. I'm not sure if everybody quite understands that this was not a one-time sweep. The area by the triangle is not the only area affected. There's actually been ongoing sweeps around the entire city ever since March 8th. This isn't a one-time thing. This isn't a one-place thing. This isn't about the encampments, quote-unquote, by Samaritan House and the Rescue Mission. This is about the active enforcement of the camping ban across the entire city of Denver, which makes it illegal to cover yourself with anything other than your clothing. There's numerous folks, sitting here right now with me, and myself included, that have personal experience of this enforcement. Not around when you're blocking a sidewalk. We're not talking about obstructing passageway here. We're not talking about big structures. We're not talking about lots of shopping carts. We're talking about laying down and covering yourself with a blanket and a tarp. Cops are enforcing that law in mass across this entire city right now. People are being moved out to farther and farther in hidden locations. It is not safe. It is giving people massive sleep deprivation. This is something that I am sure everybody here is concerned about. I hope everybody here is concerned about this. Sleep deprivation is a serious problem. Being moved to hidden corners, out down by the river in some faraway place where you can't be with your crew or be safe, these things are detrimental to everybody's ability to live the life they need to live. Amen. So, can we please consider what it looks like for all of us, myself, all of us that are desperately working to try to solve the crises that are at hand, consider this a crisis. Consider the fact that when I can't lay down and cover myself with a blanket, that's a crisis. That's my home at that particular time. Now, we can talk about the quote-unquote encampments by Samaritan, and we in fact had meetings with numerous people about how we were going to create alternative ways of addressing some of the particular issues in those areas with large amounts of stuff. Sure, that's fine. We can talk about that. That's not what happened. Everybody got kicked out of there and the entire city. Okay? So please, let's not give this idea that this is one location and one time. This is ongoing. And please, let's have an understanding that while we can appreciate all of our work, everybody here does so much great work. It works so hard to provide options for people in need. That's not the answer. Shelters, as much as we love them, as much as some people love them, I'm glad they exist, they are not the answer. You cannot tell me to go into a shelter if I don't want to go into a shelter. That is like going into jail. Okay, that's not a solution. No matter how many beds there are, that's not a solution. So let's talk about home, like you talked about. Let's talk about safety. Let's talk about the issues that are on hand right now, and consider what it would be like if everyone here spoke up to the mayor and said, I'm sorry, Mayor, this sweeps are not working. We need to reconsider. We need to let people rest. This is not working.
Yeah! Yeah!
Thank you. My name is James Duncan, and I am a math teacher here at Auraria campus. I make what I would say, living wages. They won't let me work more than 30 hours, so I don't have benefits. I have quite a few things to say, but I won't, because I just know want to respect your time. I'd like to see a show of hands. Who has heard of the Lewis Powell memo from 1971? One? Really? You need to look it up. It's a 6-page memo calling for a corporate takeover. It was by the soon-to-be Supreme Court Lewis Powell to the Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, back in 1971, right after the 60s, where there was a real threat, a threat of real democracy. And what this Frank Morales, I heard a talk by him, who was squatting in New York City, and he's having that project of squatting. He describes his process or his understanding. He's been looking into this a long time, that there are government documents that explicitly say, that they will disperse, scatter, because of this threat to the business community. So his main point was that shelters are not homes. And the reason that they have shelters is to keep people from organizing, to keep the threat down, to do this. I have a little joke for you. This man goes to a doctor, and he says, Doctor, I hurt everywhere. I hurt here, I hurt here, I hurt here, I hurt here, I hurt here. Doctor says, so let me take a look at you. Oh, I found it. I determined I found the problem. You have a broken finger. We don't look to see, like you say, it's unacceptable for people to live, out in the open. I heard of a Native American speech 150 years ago. He said, "This is great country. It has everything we need. If I want coolness, I go over here. If I want water, I go over there. If I want food, I do this. It provides for us." And I can't help but think, like, what's the anomaly here? Thanks. Please look up that 1971 Lewis Powell memo. It describes, puts us in a very different perspective. Thank you.
Okay, Nathan Willis Stanley with the ACLU of Colorado. And I want to say we are aware of that these sweeps are ongoing. They are not one time. They are ongoing. They are virtually citywide. They are very aggressive. And there is a dispersal going on of people that, that I think is quite problematic. We understand these are complex issues. There's a lot that needs to be done. I'm actually very glad to hear that there's affordable housing on the way, that there's work in increasing shelter capacities and things like that. But it is clearly the case right now that the shelter capacity we have is not sufficient for everyone. We don't have the housing that is sufficient right now. And shelters are not always an adequate or proper solution. There's many different reasons why people either cannot or will not use shelters as their one resort. So for all of those reasons, it is clearly the case we don't have the capacity right now to house everyone who is unhoused in our city. And in that situation, if there is literally no place you can legally go, on public or private property anywhere, no legal place you can go, as much as I've heard the city say we're not criminalizing homelessness, you have criminalized homelessness. There is nowhere to go, and if all of the things that you need to do to survive are subject to arrest, you have criminalized homelessness. This is a very serious problem. The ACLU has concerns about the confiscation of property. The implication being that that if you don't have a home, you don't have the right to have more possessions than you can wear on your body or carry in your arms, and there really is no reason why that should be the case. We're very troubled by the notion when there clearly is not sufficient capacity. The labeling of people who are not in shelters as service resistant is an insulting term to them, and we don't like hearing this used. And I'm troubled by the notion that the bottom line is, and I heard this stated in this meeting, that the bottom line is removing encampments, when the bottom line ought to be people's lives. There are at least 11 people who have died of hypothermia already this year in the city. And I am glad to hear that there are discussions about solutions. I want to see those discussions go forward. We want to see creative discussions about actual solutions. But until that happens, until those have actually been achieved, why can the city not relent on these sweeps? Why can the city not recognize that there will be people outdoors? It is unavoidable, and that we try to accommodate that as the best we can while we work toward those long-term solutions, rather than, in this instance, violating people's core civil liberties and rights in a time when there are very few options for the people that are being swept along.
Hi, my name is PJ D'Amico. I'm the executive director of the Buck Foundation. I think what really upsets me the most is that it almost feels like I'm speaking to an empty chair, and that there's a unilateral nature of the city making decisions without the thoughtful input of the experts and the competent folks who ought to sort of be having this conversation with each other rather than to a vacant chair. And respectfully, Benny, that you're in a position that you're having to defend these decisions. I mean, I would implore this group to develop a working group that is not necessarily going to have to kind of adhere to process, but to imagine new ways of thinking about this with solutions that may or may not sort of meet the political kind of environment, but know that the urgency is now, that this kind of binary relationship between they're sweeping, they're not sweeping. Trust me, they are sweeping. I have been swept. They are sweeping. And so I think that I would encourage my colleagues here, who I have tremendous respect for, to sort of create a different way of having this commission meeting so that it is not speaking to an empty chair, but that we are really taking this on and being responsible to each other and the folks that are really the most disenfranchised. Thanks.
The solution is temporary. What we can do, what y'all can do, is to give us a piece of property to where it is public owned to use, to where everybody can sleep. Because everybody knows down on the river, when it's cold up here, it's about 10 or 15 degrees colder down there. And I see a lot of my friends that go down there. I tell them like this: if you don't have a warrant, stay where you're at. I'm gonna stay where I'm at until I find a place. I'm a veteran. I'm a Marine, so I don't worry about fighting. That's part of my nature. But the thing is, we need the sweep to stop. I mean, I get ample sleep. I suffer with PTSD, and a lot of times when they come and wake me up, telling me to move, I just went to sleep. Now I got to start this whole process all over again. It don't make sense. I have a voucher. I can't even use it. It ain't worth the paper it's written on. No one is accepting it. Because why? Because they can take the money from people and get twice that much in the voucher. That's ridiculous. You know, everybody talking about the sweep. Yes, we need them to stop. But the number one main thing is you need to listen to the people that are out there on the street. They know what they need. They know exactly what they want. You know, we want houses. We want the sweep to stop. We want a place, a piece of property to where we can go and sleep in peace without being woken up 2 or 3 times a night. That's what we want. That's what we need. It's a temporary solution, yes, until you get the houses built. You say, what, 18 more months before enough houses is built? What about now? We need a place now. We need a safe place now to do what we need to do. You know, people go to work out there. They can't afford to go and rent a hotel room because that don't went up. They can't afford to rent a house because a studio now is just like paying a mortgage. So I'm just saying we need a piece of property temporarily that is not being used by the city, that is not been developing to where we can go and be safe. It's just that simple. That's one solution. And then that way the police can look back to doing what they're supposed to do. Because you get tired, because I know one night they're going to wake me up and I might not be in the same frame of mind I'm in now. And guess what? Somebody is going to get hurt. Because, why? Not enough sleep. The frame of mind they are in. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. The mayor not here. I ain't gonna say that. But he's not here. But we are. This committee right here. Y'all should be talking to the mayor. The mayor ain't here. Why? Because he said he might interrupt the meeting. The meeting is already interrupted because, first of all, we're trying to give y'all a solution. And we just need you to hear these things and stop with the sweep. Because something is going to happen bad out there. Either a policeman is going to have to shoot somebody out there, or one of the policemen or one of the workers is going to get hurt. This is deeper than what y'all think. I have a God-given right to survive. And no man, not the mayor, not the president, is going to take that away from me. So bring it on to 26, under the tree. That's where I will be tonight. If you really want to know how people sleep and what the police do, I invite each and every last one of y'all to come out there, grab a sleeping bag, and sleep down there. And you can actually see and feel exactly what we feel when the police come down there and say, move on, or keep your bag. You know, this is ridiculous. This don't make sense. You know, I mean, I know God said it came from Jesus on there. We will always have homeless people with us. So if he came from his lip, he knew this. But yet, the city of Denver trying to act like they don't have homeless people or sleeping people down by the river. You know, police officer tell me, you can go down by the river to sleep. Oh, I can break the law down there, but I can't break it up here. That's stupid. But anyway, I thank y'all for indulging me, and I'm sorry about my outburst at the beginning. I just hope y'all understand where I'm coming from. This is coming from the heart.
Hi, I'm Mariana Thompson. I'd like to know, how can you turn around and say that this is not inhumane? So it's okay for a person, any human beings, regardless of how much money you have in your pocket right now. I was once, when I first came here 5 years ago, I was making $21 an hour working at the jail and turning around and living at Samaritan House, sleeping on the same streets that you swept, okay? This is inhumane for anyone to have to live on the street. I lost everything just to have a roof over my head because of the mere fact that I didn't have good credit. Now, what's up, people? When it comes to the Telluride law, when it comes to let's have solutions, let's have insurance. Can people living on the street right now wait until 2016, 2017 when they're dying? 11 people died, okay? I don't know about you, but that affects me very much to know that my brothers and sisters died on the street from hypothermia when we're in the richest, one of the richest, most productive cities, named #1 in the United States. Come on, people. Everybody needs to work together. We need to turn around and do this for all of us.
Hi, I truly believe that the mayor is a coward not coming here. You are part of the commission. He should hear your words and take into consideration how you guys all feel about this. Because there's a number of you, you're in to help people. Most of you, from what I've heard. You're here to help people. You care about people. Stop the sweeps. They are inhumane. It's like me, another human being. other human beings just like you are saying, move along. You don't matter. You don't care. We don't want to see you or even think of you. Pretty much you're trash, and we'll trash your stuff. I do not want to live in a society that treats other human beings like that. I really don't. And if it's come down to that, I mean, are people heartless? We're all human beings. We're all in this together. And for you guys to not have even really known about the sweeps and got input, that is wrong. The mayor needed to be here and hear this from his community and from you on the commission. But it is wrong, and the urban camping ban is wrong. People are dying out there. They're freezing to death. People are dying. If that doesn't get you to make real change, I don't know what could.
Thank you for your passion and considerate input. We would like to probably invite your group to a forum at some point. We'll determine when that might be, so we can expound on this and also detail for you many of the housing opportunities that are being worked and the services as well. I mean, as a voice in your community, I would hope that you would encourage people to utilize the service, the many services that are provided within this city. I'm sure that you're more than aware of them, but it is something that, we talk about shelters. Clearly, we know shelters are not the end all, but the bottom line is that we know that we have unsheltered on the street, and to say that that sheltering is not a worthwhile endeavor.
Institutionalized people.
To do it, sir, I really gave you almost an hour to discuss. Nobody interrupted you. Nobody jumped up. You've been civil. We've been civil. Let's keep it that way. So even an opponent of shelter as strongly as John Pravinsky with Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, now in his capacity as president of the National Coalition for the Homeless, have recognized that in the circumstances and the landscape of homelessness that we're dealing with around this nation, that a second look at the use of shelters as a temporary opportunity to make sure that people aren't dying on the streets. They just issued their memo this week supporting the use of emergency shelters as an interim methodology to deal with this explosion that we're having around the country. So we know that, and in the interim, while we're waiting for projects to come online and people to be housed, we are going to continue to pursue sheltering in an upgraded fashion. In some point in the near future, you'll see the layout of the new permanent shelter that Rescue Mission will be opening later this year, or first part of next year. And it's what we see as the future of shelter. It could easily transform into some level of transitional housing as well. So we'll continue with it. The city, many of you, particularly providers, have asked questions concerning the next step after the Peoria location. We have to move from there in the May time frame. And the city is in the process of looking to bring online a more permanent location that we've been trying to do for several years now. And so we should have some definitive information on that within the next several weeks. But it will be more permanent. It will allow us to upgrade the conditions of that and move forward. So, again, thank you for your input. Appreciate your presence. And your input will be shared. with that. I'm losing my commission members. I'm looking at the agenda, and there's some updates and all. We can do that via email. I would ask for one last round of any questions or comments from commission members, and then I would probably move to adjourn this meeting. But Randall, go ahead.
And this is more placid, so you don't have to worry about my shout. I really feel the people, and I've said this before, but I don't feel you can ever say it enough. The people around this table who've been here for all this time, through all these things, some colleagues died, they are heroes to me. And I don't care if somebody doesn't like the fact that I am emotional and express myself, because the truth is that it is incredible what Denver has also accomplished. And if you don't want to look at that or hear that, cool. But I'm telling you, from a standpoint of back in the 90s, when I saw 7 people murdered, and there's a plaque at Sound House that shows that right at the entrance, you know that we made tremendous progress. And that's because of you. And homeless people too, but it's all of us. And I can't get it across enough how powerful, how much grace, how much of a gift it is, how much of a blessing each of you are. And I can't put my arm around you and hold you and tell you that enough, how much you have helped to save people's lives, not just have a service, not just open the door, but actually make it possible for people who are suffering to go on with their lives or to die with dignity. Even that, you've offered that. So you can never be on my bad side, because even if I'm really serious and consternated and down, I still love you.
I don't mean to come into your final discussion, but I heard 2 things that were very important today. One is not to do the sweeping. That is not helpful to the homeless, and it doesn't solve the problem. So it doesn't make them disappear. It just makes them in different places. Secondly, I heard that you should be looking at some large vacant lots, some large warehouses, where people who are homeless and need to get off the street can maybe get together and create a temporary village of their own while they're going through this period and have some control over it. I heard those 2 ideas, and I hope you'll take them to your members, all of you who I work with and appreciate.
So, I'll acknowledge the inadequacy of both the timeline and the scale at which we're working, but I still feel an obligation to disclose to you the work that we are doing on housing. And so 2 updates: that the council met on Friday and set policy priorities for the year. It's the first time we've ever done that outside of budget context, and housing and homelessness was one of those priorities. There were only 3 that were established. One was transportation, housing and homelessness was the second. And there was a third, employment, with homeless employment being a thread in the employment piece as well. So really having that piece touched on in 2 different of the priorities. It's the first time that we've ever set employment as a priority as a council. And so Councilwoman Ortega was there as well, and it was very strongly supported by the council. The ad hoc committee, which is going to be us working as a council more directly with the administration than we ever have before on homelessness, begins meeting tomorrow at noon. It's only an hour-long meeting. Our first topic that we've agreed to take on is discussing the ideas of goal setting and plans around supportive housing. Although Housing First has long been a goal, we don't currently have an operational unit goal as a city. It is one of the highest priorities for the council to have such a goal. So to figure out how we would go about setting it. We will continue to come back and report to this commission and or bring input in on that process. We're just going to start by looking at what other cities are doing. But we will be having that conversation about setting more specific goals and how we would go about doing that. What time frame do you set? An annual goal? Do you set a 5-year goal? How does that work? So if anyone has cities that they're familiar with that they think are good practices and can send it to me ASAP, that's great. Otherwise, this is something that I'm sure we'll be working on and bringing back and reporting back to you. But thank you.
I would also say that through the Transmission Control Commission, which is also part of the Opportunity Health Strategies, as we move, I just wanted to update you on a couple of areas of work there, and are very open to input. One is that the co-responder, which is clinicians with police, so not outreach, different kind of model, but clinicians with police. That is, those folks have been hired. Those of you who might know Chris Richardson from MHCD, who's been running the Day Reporting Center, is the person that's leading that. I think folks will really enjoy working with him. So that will be starting. The Solutions Center continues to move forward, and so we still hope to have that opened up in the year, the very first part of next year. On the social impact bonds, that's also been open about 3 weeks. 25 folks have been identified, and 16 of those have been housed. So we are working on trying to find the others because we're holding housing for them right now. And Tom, to your point earlier about not always be able to find folks on outreach, maybe we can help try to figure out how to do some of that a little bit more coordinated. And then 2 new things are coming on board. One is jail diversion, which is really focusing on persons with known mental health issues and diverting them right to mental health services. So that's something we're in the process of designing right now. And then the other one is a true homeless court that will actually happen in the community to hear any kinds of tickets and clear warrants so that we don't end up arresting people because they have an unprocessed or unpaid ticket. So those things are all in the works. And again, I invite conversations around this particular efforts.
Just briefly to say, under the updates, committees, Shelter and Systems Committee continues to meet the 4th Monday of the month at 1 p.m. at the Cornerstone Residences at St. Francis Center. And we are putting together a paper to just give some information around what we as a group think are the needs in the community to better serve people who are homeless. So you can send me ideas that you might have.
Yeah, I'd like to add to all of you trauma care. Keep that first and foremost in your process, especially from the city council when you're talking about housing and supportive services. Please, trauma care.
We encourage or accept the recommendation.
Second, third,
fourth. Commission members will